All right, it's a lovely, beautiful Sunday evening, day number 25 in the month of January 2026. Good evening, folks, and welcome to Iron Port here on Metropolitan Television. Iron Port is proudly brought to you by the Ghana Regional Authority, Well PLC, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, Meridian Port Services, MPS, and indeed Phoenix Insurance. Remember, Iron Port is proudly powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority-GPHA, and our media partner is the Business and Financial Times. Now, if you want to have a grasp of all that transpired on the show tonight, make a date and grab the Thursday edition of the BNFT, and you'll be able to read all that happened here on the show. Tonight, we are streaming live as usual on social media pages on Facebook. We are live at Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. Still on Facebook, we are live at Port of Tema. And on YouTube, we are streaming live at Iron Port. Iron Port. Now, we shall be getting interactive with you as usual. So all you have to do is sit back, relax, grab your phones, and send us your messages and comments ahead via our dedicated WhatsApp line, which is 0538-037353. 0538-037353. When the time is ripe, and I pick signals from the production team, which will activate the phone lines for you to call in and contribute to the discussion. My name is Kennedy Mona. We're going for a quick break. When we return, we'll continue with the show. Please stay with us.
Good energy brings you quality choices with Goil Super XP. Available in many Goil stations nationwide. It is fortified with special additives that help your engine perform better and use less fuel. Branch into a Goil station today and energize your ride with Goil Super XP, compatible with most vehicles. Goil Super XP will feel ya, huh? Will be feel. Goil, good energy. Ja, yeah, yeah.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Yeah, our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, streetlights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is, you still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Welcome to today's edition of Serene Insurance Business News. We present to you Serena. You're right. You can complete an entire insurance process for the purchase of any motor and other insurance products, from onboarding to issuing a motor insurance sticker and policy certificate, all on WhatsApp in less than 10 minutes. Serena is simple to use and it prioritizes user ease and flexibility. You can either use voice notes or text to effortlessly issue your instant policy, cross-platform renewals, claims, and also process your payments through mobile money, Visa, and MasterCard. To engage Serena, just search for Serena Insurance on all social media handles and scan the Serena barcode or save her number 0500 517 114 and start chatting her on WhatsApp immediately. There you have it. Serena is not just a tool, it's an innovation by Serene Insurance designed to redefine how motor and travel insurance are accessed and managed. Speed, convenience, and reliability.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
At Phoenix Insurance, we make the unpredictable predictable and the uncertain certain with our range of products including motor insurance, fire insurance, engineering insurance, marine insurance, accident insurances, and all types of bonds. We have you covered. We also support you with risk management advice to enable you stay focused on your business. Take a policy with Phoenix Insurance today. We help you rise from adversity stronger and more secure. Contact us on 0302 246319 or 0302 246644 or any of our branches, agencies, and brokers spread across the nation. You can as well connect with us on our WhatsApp chatbot. Efiba is waiting to assist you. Make the future predictable with Phoenix Insurance. Phoenix Insurance, a delightful service experience delivered with wisdom.
All right, welcome back. It's now time for us to take a look at happenings in the port and shipping industry over the last week. Enjoy.
The Tema Port Dredging project forms part of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority's broader strategy to modernize port infrastructure, improve operational efficiency, and position Ghana as a leading maritime hub in West Africa. An official inspection exercise led by the Director of Port Tema, Zuma Esquire, has been conducted at the site of the ongoing dredging works at the Port of Tema. The project, which commenced in September 2025, is currently about 50% complete and is expected to be completed by May this year. The dredging works are aimed at deepening the port's berthing areas from 11 meters to 40 meters chart datum, a development that will significantly enhance the port's capacity to receive larger vessels, particularly bulk carriers, transporting cement manufacturing materials into the country. The project is being executed by China Harbour Engineering Company. Speaking during the inspection, Director of Port Tema expressed satisfaction with the pace and quality of work, noting that the project will improve vessel turnaround time and strengthen Tema Port's position as a preferred destination for some of the world's largest carriers.
It brings a lot of cost savings because the vessels will not stay at the anchorage for too long. There will be no demurrage. We expect that that will translate into the pricing of cement and also the availability of the cement products. There will be no shortage recorded. We expect that with the bigger vessels, economies of scale, the business will boom for the importers.
He said the expanded draft will lead to economies of scale, reduce the cost of doing business at the port, and support Ghana's growing industrial and construction sectors. The Harbour Master, Captain Bramo Tavia, whose marine operations team is working closely with the engineers, the hydrological department, and the corporate engineering department of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, is overseeing marine safety and operational coordination for the project. Captain Tavia expressed optimism about the impact of the dredging works on port efficiency and maritime traffic.
If all goes on well according to plan, we are not going to expect more congestion at the anchorage, because now if an importer every week brings 3 vessels, I think now it will reduce to 1, because if we go 14 meters, it means the import tonnage will also increase.
A Japanese business delegation has paid a working visit to the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority to explore investment opportunities within Ghana's ports and harbours sector. A high-powered delegation made up of representatives from both public and private sector companies in Japan was received at the GPHA Towers on Friday, January 16, 2026 by the Director of Port, Tema, Zuma Esquire. On behalf of the Director General of GPHA, Major General Paul Seydou Tanye Kulono.
I'm really looking forward to visiting you and Tema Port, and it's one of the most successful and business and in Ghana with the collaboration with Japan. And with here is a delegation of the Japanese companies which are really interested in the business and investment to you and collaboration with Tema Port.
During the meeting, the director of port expressed the authority's readiness to collaborate with Japanese companies to unlock mutually beneficial business opportunities in Ghana's maritime and logistics space. He also assured the delegation of GPHA's capacity to deliver efficient, reliable, and world-class ports services to companies intending to operate through Ghana's ports.
We currently do not have any passenger kind of terminal, so that's an area we could look at. The new ports under development in Keta is also a huge one, so it's an area that you may take your interest there.
The visit forms part of ongoing engagements by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority to attract foreign direct investment and strengthen Ghana's position as a leading maritime and logistics hub in West Africa. The Board of Directors of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, GPHA, led by its chairman, Johnson Ketia, on Wednesday, 21st January 2026, embarked on a familiarization visit to key GPHA facilities as part of efforts to strengthen oversight and enhance service delivery across the authority. Facilities visited included the Jamestown Fishing Harbour, Tema Fishing Harbour, the GPHA Clinic, and the International Maritime Hospital. The visit forms part of the board's ongoing assessment program aimed at gaining first-hand insight into operations, infrastructure, and service delivery at GPHA facilities nationwide. At the Jamestown Fishing Harbour, the engineering manager, Engineer Stephen Uria, briefed the board on ongoing activities and highlighted the harbour's immense potential to support coastal and maritime tourism within the Jamestown enclave. Management also appealed to the board to prioritize the destilling of the harbour basin to bring much-needed relief to fisherfolks and improve operational efficiency.
Jamestown is a big tourism city or town, and what they do is that currently you have a group from the tourism center. They bring the tourists into the port, go with this canoe and do like a coastal route just to see how the coastline of Ghana is. So we've seen that if we dredge, it will also give us that potential in transferring Jamestown as a big tourism facility.
At the Tema Fishing Harbour, the General Manager, Engineer Stephen Ampiel, commended the board for approving the purchase of 4 forklifts to support harbour operations. The harbour's manager assured the board of their continued commitment to efficient and improved service delivery.
If we are able to repair the side of the breakwater, we can be able to accommodate at this side alone about 30 vessels for the period, and we believe it's a good investment that we must do.
The board later visited the GPHA clinic, where they were received by the General Manager for Health Services at GPHA, Dr. Vitus Victor Anab, who led members on the tour of the facility, including its ultramodern laboratory. At the International Maritime Hospital, the board was taken through the world-class healthcare facility, which continues to provide quality medical services to both maritime workers and the general public, by the Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Vitus Victor Anab.
Our mission statement to offer a one-stop shop referral center that provides international standard healthcare services in a customer-centered and congenial environment. Vision says that we want to become the preferred center of excellence in the client focus and specialized healthcare. This is a specialist referral hospital.
Expressing his satisfaction at the end of the visit, Board Chairman Johnson Ketia said he was impressed with the facilities and assured management that the board would give due consideration to the proposals and concerns raised during the tour.
I believe that we have a good community which if combined with a good facility, it will be a win-win situation for everybody. So let me commend them. I've been told by management that they've so far cooperated and brought in very good suggestions as to how things could be done to arrive at that win-win situation that we all look at.
The Port of Tema has donated a wide range of relief items to the Happy Academy and Assessment Center at Ashaiman Zenu to support the care of children between the ages of 6 to 10 years with special needs. Items donated include from food suppliers like rice, gari, maize, beans, cooking oil, canned mackerel, and fresh tomatoes. Other items included diapers, mattresses, sleeping mats, and office chairs, which are expected to improve the living conditions and daily care of the children at the facility. Speaking during the presentation, the Marketing and Public Affairs Officer of the Port of Tema, Juan Taino, stated that the donation underscores the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority's commitment to supporting national development initiatives through meaningful social interventions. She noted that the authority remains dedicated to improving lives, especially those of vulnerable groups, as part of its broader corporate social responsibility agenda.
We are happy to present these items to you as small but meaningful gesture of love.
Thank you.
Support and solidarity.
Okay.
You know, every year GPHA holds a Thanksgiving service.
Okay.
And in gratitude to Jehovah God for his mercies, and in the spirit of giving, we show kindness to others. So it is our hope that these items will help to improve the daily learning experience of these children and contribute to their comfort and well-being.
Receiving the items on behalf of the institution, the founder of Happy Academy and Assessment Center, Emanuela Akunlibe, described the donation as timely, noting that it will go a long way to easing the challenges faced by the center.
They need help. They are human beings. They have right to education, right to good health, right to shelter. But who is going to give that? When you gain more, you give some out. And that is what you have just done. And then the whole company, the workers there, will be blessed for stepping in here to support these children.
Madame Akunlibe described that the institution has been severely impacted by numerous challenges and appealed to other corporate bodies to emulate the Port of Tema's example by supporting institutions that cater for children with special needs.
It is not easy to cater for them. We have a lot of needs. But coming to our aid today, we are so thankful to God for that. And then we say that wherever you get it from, God will bless it double. And then for coming back, many are blessed and they are outside. You are here to thank God. I don't think it will never be in vain. You'll be blessed in million times. Your families, your generations, and all will be blessed for coming to see these children.
The donation ceremony was marked by expressions of appreciation from staff and caregivers of the center.
Right, so those were happenings in the port and shipping industry over the last week. We are now going to take the word or phrase of the day. And remember, the word or phrase of the day segment has been fashioned to bring you up to speed with the terminologies and jargons we use in the shipping industry. And today we're taking a look at the phrase vessel sharing agreement. Vessel sharing agreement.
Vessel sharing agreement is a term agreement between two or more carriers in which a number of container positions equal in space are reserved on particular vessels for each of the participants. The number of slots on different vessels on the same route can vary by vessel type and direction, but may also be expressed as each party's capacity use of the vessels employed jointly.
And on to the health and safety tip for the week. And today we're talking about foot rest. Foot rest.
Foot rest. A foot rest is any type of support for the feet that makes sitting more comfortable or ergonomic, meaning easier and more efficient for the body. Foot rests come in different shapes and sizes. By targeting the position of the feet in relation to the body, foot rests can relieve pain and reduce pressure on the joints. leading to improved comfort and productivity. Whether you work from home or go into the office, it is possible that you are spending a lot of time sitting, which can often lead to discomfort and pain. Thankfully, any chair or workspace can be easily modified by adding a footrest.
All right, so we're zooming into our discussion proper tonight. Tonight, we're taking a look at how to revitalize the multilateral trading system and the role of the International Chamber of Commerce, ICC. Now, let me put the discussion into context. The global multilateral trading system is facing one of its most critical moments since the establishment of the World Trade Organization, that's WTO. Rising unilateral trade actions, increasing protectionism, and unresolved systemic weaknesses have placed immense strain on the rules-based trading order, threatening global growth, jobs, and investments, particularly for developing economies like ours. Against this backdrop, the upcoming 14th WTO Ministerial Conference, that's MC14, represents a pivotal lifesaver opportunity to restore confidence in multilateral trade. Now, the International Chamber of Commerce, ICC, as the voice of global business, is calling for bold, time-bound reforms to preserve and strengthen the WTO, ensuring it remains fit for purpose in a rapidly evolving global economy. Through its call for MC14 and the ICC Compact for Trade, Jobs and Growth, ICC is championing practical solutions that prioritize systemic reform, private sector engagement, digital trade, services, and SME participation in cross-border trade. Now, the discussion explores how ICC is mobilizing political will, advocating business-driven reforms, and supporting inclusive trade growth, especially for emerging economies and trade-dependent sectors such as ports, logistics, and shipping. Tonight, I am privileged to introduce to us Mr. Emmanuel Donikwame, who is the Secretary General of the International Chamber of Commerce Ghana, ICC Ghana. Good evening, sir, and welcome.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
And Happy New Year.
Many happy returns for all of us.
Absolutely. Mr. Donikwame is no stranger to our import. He's been here on a couple of times, and we're always privileged to have you. Also in the studios with us is Mr. Ziad Hamwe. Mr. Ziad Hamwe is also no stranger to our import. He's been here on a number of occasions, several occasions, and he's always a delight to host. He's the national president of the Borderless Alliance, Ghana. Good evening, sir, and welcome.
Good evening. Pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Happy New Year.
Many happy returns.
Right, so let's begin the discussion and find out that the multilateral trading system, it's been described, as being an unprecedented strain. And I think that that's from the ICC's perspective, from the organization's perspective. What are the most serious threats facing the WTO today?
The ICC has always been calling for reform.
Yes.
It's also because businesses are evolving, and we've realized that there's been a lot of unilateralism and protectionism in the system. And it's even gotten worse now.
Right.
These days, we hardly hear of even politics. It's all trade. And we've realized that the WTO current structure does not provide the solutions or is not fit to address the challenges of the 21st century. So what we are calling for is that the MC14 in Cameroon, that's the 14th Ministerial Conference in Yaoundé, presents a very unique opportunity.
Right.
Because the problems are out there for everybody to see. For the first time, we're hearing of bazooka tariffs.
Right.
The next we'll be hearing is, what do you call it? Patriot missile tariffs. And this is the right time for business to be called to the table to provide some solutions in addressing, not to take the politics out, and then allow the end users of all these agreements to also come in and then help provide some of the solutions that the WTO needs.
Yeah. In terms of unilateralism and what do we call it, protectionism, why do countries feel unsafe to open up their borders to ensure that, because we are in a global world, no country is an island. We are dependent on each other. What I have in my country, that you require in your country, you don't have. What do you have in your country, I don't have. And that's what makes the system evolve. And so we must depend on each other. But if we begin to practice this unilateralism and protectionism, then where are we headed?
The issue is for business. I keep on saying business people all around the world speak the same language. To us, would have even preferred a borderless world.
Exactly.
You know, but once we have states need revenue to develop. And most states depend on tariffs to develop.
Yes.
And I remember the ICC, for example, the International Chamber of Commerce, was one of the key institutions that called for businesses to look at all the negotiations that were being undertaken at the WTO and tease out ones that can be implemented and then can solve most of our problems quickly.
Yes.
So we teased out the trade facilitation agreement, and then we got the political will from almost all our member countries to get it passed, and then got the countries to ratify it. That's how business associations are able to get these things done. And the language was quite simple.
Yeah.
It reduces cost and reduces the time in doing business. Currently, if we allow the WTO to fail, the implication is worse than that. The current situation we're facing is that if we allow the system to collapse, yes, cost will increase. And the current situation is also making it very difficult for business, especially SMCs, to be able to predict the next move. That's the difficulty we are in now.
It is surprising that these issues are coming up at the time when there's an African at the helm of the WTO. Why is that?
I wouldn't say it's because there's an African at the helm. Some would say the conference is also being held in Africa. It's a unique opportunity for the continent. We've been able to get our AFCFTA, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, working. It's taken us years. So we seem to be on the right path. The well-established systems that we all believed in seem to be having challenges. The European Union has its own challenges. The superpowers, the big economies also have their individual issues. And we believe as a global institution, we are better off all having a rules-based system that is consistent. You know, creating a level playing field for smaller countries, bigger countries, for us to all play it safe. You know, which has worked for some time now. And if there are problems, then we need to reform. And Ghana has done it by resetting. So I think Ghana is a very good example at the conference for us to, our ministers once there, to explain how these things can work. You know, reform and reset. You know, once you have a very worse situation, it gives you the opportunity to look at all the problems. When the problems are not that big, it makes it very difficult. People will cry for reform, but is it necessary? But now, the cracks are huge. So there's the need for reform,
All right, let me come to Mr. Hamui. You have fought and are still fighting for a borderless Africa, a borderless Ghana, borderless Africa. And it does appear as if the issues that you are fighting for in Ghana and Africa the same issues that are rearing their ugly heads, you know, on the global stage, as the WTO, as you just heard us talk about. Why do you think that is, and how big a challenge is it to you?
Thank you for the question. You see, Kennedy, the reason of the founding of Borderless Alliance back in 2011 and then its formal launch in 2012 was to promote regional economic integration and the freedom of movement of goods and people across West Africa in line with the vision of its founding fathers. And that vision was built on the importance and the critical role of economic development in building prosperity and the perceived effect and benefit of having prosperity on peace and security. A more prosperous region is more peaceful. That is how it goes. And so to get there, you need to work with the various authorities, the various stakeholders, in order to organize their resources, organize the movement and the flow of goods and people and capital and finance and information across these countries. And that has been in the main vision of Borderless Alliance. And so, in a way, our role is in the operational level of multilateral trade systems, because the implementation is usually where the lack is. The lack of enforcement of rules and regulation, the low implementation rates of some of the international and regional agreements. And that is what causes the uncertainty that my brother Donnie was talking about at the borders, along the roads, at ports of entries and at destinations. You have non-consistent and non-mutual recognition of documentation of trade. And that is not an inherent weakness in the system itself. It is in the enforcement of the implementation. So if you have a good law or a good set of rules and regulations and you don't implement it well, it doesn't mean that the fault lays into the law, in the rules and the regulations themselves. And this is where organizations like the World Trade Organization come in, because they provide the platform to engage between the stakeholders, in this case, mostly the policymakers, but also the policy takers. So groups and associations representing private sector like the ICC meet and have a seat at the table at the WTO to bring the concerns and the priorities of the private sector globally. While Borderless Alliance and its members are on the regional level, and they aim to enforce the implementation of these regional rules and regulations on national level. Now, you've said something very important, and it resonates with something that Donnie was saying. And indeed, global geopolitical tension, global value chain disruptions, and growing uncertainties are leading to and weighing down on global trade. Now, keep in mind that in 2025, the global trade outlook was slightly positive, even though people have expected it to dip. Global trade still grew, even though this year it is supposed to stabilize somehow. But then there's another silver lining to the fact that we are living in a more uncertain world. And it has to do with the fact that it's another wake-up call for African governments and African stakeholders that we need to speak in one voice. So, and this is my call for action at the moment. At a national level, let us set our differences apart. Let us think about what are our priorities as nations and move forward. I'm not just talking about Ghana, I'm talking about Ghana, Togo, Benin, Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, the rest of ECOWAS region. And then on the WTO level, let us leave the differences aside and let us focus on what are the issues, the core issues and priorities, what are the concerns. The main concern in the area of WTO is that there is a consensus mechanism and a dialogue mechanism that has been short-circuited somehow by the lack of the ability to take decisions. You get there to the meeting, you have your instructions, you get to the table, you discuss. Then some nations decide that this is not what they really want. They balk, they stop, they pull off. So many things happen, and then all of a sudden everything breaks down and stalls. And so you can't move forward, you can't move backward. What do? You pause, and the pause sometimes extends. And this creates even more uncertainty, and uncertainty is very bad for business. Whether you are at the border or whether you are at a discussion table in Geneva, it's the same thing because it adds the cost, it adds the time, it allows opportunities for unscrupulous alliances to come in and to twist the terrain somehow for private advantages or for personal gains across the borders. And so this is where organizations, organized private associations and companies and governments have to position themselves as partners, because the policymaker and the policy taker need to align their priorities, and then from there on, identify what these main priorities are, and then work inwards with their own stakeholders to agree, whether as private sector or as governments, and then to move together and to advocate for a common position. And we have to look at this from an African perspective, knowing that the world is no longer the hegemony that we thought it was. It's just fracturing left and right and center. So Africa is becoming the center of the new world trade order, and we have to start to look at how to mobilize ourselves to speak in one voice.
Now, you mentioned the issue of enforcement and implementation as key challenges. Now, why is this? Because it does appear as if, is it a matter of bad faith on the part of some of the parties that are signatories to some of these actions that we collectively want to sign and come up with so that we can facilitate and ensure some fluidity in terms of trade? Or what is it?
I think that's a very good question. And to be honest with you, I've always looked at this over the past decade and a half of advocacy, and I've wondered about what really drives these issues and this discrepancy between the generousness of the African leaders to sign agreements and then the unwillingness to come back and to implement these agreements. You know, when they all went to Bali for the signature of the World Trade Organization's trade facilitation agreement, yes, everybody was so excited about it. Even Ghana ratified in 2017. We were not among the first, but hey, we signed at least. And then we came back and we sat at the table. We brought our stakeholders together and we started to think about how to implement it. And that is where we found out two main things. And these are my main two lines of thoughts. The first is that there's a perceived lack of capacity to actually process the administrative strategies to ratify and to domesticate these regional agreements, whether ECOWAS or UEMA or similar, or the continental one like the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, or the international ones like the World Trade Organization's Trade Facilitation Agreement. Right. So there is an element of capacity building. And the fact that in Africa we have 54 countries, that's a lot of countries to organize and to coordinate among. So apart from the fact that at a country level, some countries seriously lack the capacities to process, the second one is that so many African countries that are required to speak in one voice, or at least into, not necessarily all into one voice, but into a main bulk to speak on a global scene. And then the other one has to do with the fact that there are perceived unholy alliances between those who stand to lose from the implementation of the opening up of their markets and their borders. But this is not an official position by states. Countries like our big brother, for example, will not admit that they have restriction lists into goods coming into their countries, for example. But why is there a restriction list in the first place in country X or country Y? It's because the local players believe that opening up their local markets is a threat to the economic livelihoods of some of the groups and associations in these countries. So these groups run to their own constituents and exercise pressure to find ways to stall or to delay or to cancel or to reverse the implementation of certain agreements that our heads of states and leaders have went on the international fora to sign.
Yes.
And it creates a problem because now your head of state or your government has signed and ratified and committed to a particular agreement. And now you come back and you say, in fact, there's a problem and we don't seem to be able to commit to the implementation. So what do we do? Where do we go from there?
Is it not the case that there are no punitive measures or sanctions against countries that lag behind?
Because I think the lack of sanctions
if we have a document that we are all signatories to, and we have another document outlining reasons why we must all adhere to it and implement it, and we put in sanctions that if you are not able to do that, if you don't do it, this is what we are going to do to you.
I partially agree, because you need to also include a reward mechanism inside. You can't talk about sanctions without talking about rewards. If you are preparing a sanction, it means you have done bad and I am punishing you. But what if I do good?
Right.
You need to reward me for doing good.
Absolutely.
How do you reward me? You need the resources.
Right.
How do you get the resources? You need to mobilize. And where do you mobilize the resources? You have to come back to your economic system and find out ways to leverage reasonable sums that can allow you to keep on going to, let's call it the cost of compliance in a particular country. Because you are complying on the hope that you are going to have better revenue generation in the future, whether as a company or as a government. And then from this additional revenue, you are going to come back and redevelop and continue to develop and build into this virtuous cycle of moving forward and then enhancing your business environment, your trade environment, your compliance, and then the enforcement of and the implementation of your laws and regulations. So it all fits into each other. Notice that many parts of the world across the African continent do not like to mention sanctions.
Yes.
And rightfully so, because most of the time we speak about sanction without reward, and then we speak about reward without sanctions. It can't work.
Yeah.
It has to be both at the same time.
Right.
And that's what has helped in the success of the European Union's integration. They had the money.
Yeah.
And then they used these resources in order to pressure their governments or the non-compliant governments. If they tell you Brussels will stop paying you the weekly remittances, you comply.
Yeah.
You know, but if there's nothing that will happen except someone who will shake it, point his finger at you, you say, why not? Then you keep on doing what you are doing.
Yes. All right, yes.
My concern is that we're calling for reforms, and we don't want to be using the cane to shape everybody in line. Maybe there's a problem with the rule itself. So you realize that what ICC is calling for, you remember we were discussing what's the position on this issue about standstill. Standstill, more or less, it's to look at those who have violated WTO rules. And you're calling for reform. And we believe once you're calling for reform, then that's a very unique opportunity for you to look at the rule that's being violated, so that at least you help the member improve his position,
right,
or you look at the rule itself. Because we've already raised an issue that, yes, the system is not addressing the challenges of the 21st century. You know, so we have to be flexible with all members in resetting and reforming the WTO. So Yaoundé presents a very unique opportunity to look at all those violating the rules. Why are they violating the rules? Is the rule itself fit for purpose? Is it relevant for the current century?
Right.
You know, so those are the things. So we are happy being hearing, we've seen so many issues popping up now. And we hope business can look at these things and then have a position,
right,
and also have a say, and then advise our ministers before they get to Yaoundé. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so the ICC described the 14th WTO Ministerial Conference as a lifesaver opportunity. Why is this particular one so critical compared to previous ministerial conferences?
It's become critical. I don't want to mention the countries and names, but judging from what happened at the World Economic Forum, you know, everybody's talking about the speech that was delivered by the Canadian Prime Minister,
right,
that the rules-based system, it's gradually collapsing. So each country needs to set up and then think of itself and then try and form alliances with neighbors. If your immediate neighbor is not working well, you could go far and beyond and look for partners elsewhere, you know. And we, as members of the business community, believe, we should not also sit down and allow the system to collapse. We think, yes, it's having challenges, but it presents a very unique opportunity for us to revisit and then get everybody on board and then look at what the challenges are and then try and address it holistically. But it has to be time-bound so that it doesn't end up as a talk shop. Nothing is agreed on, and then we go back and wait for the 15th.
Now, what would the failure of MC14 mean in terms of global trade, investment flows, and business confidence, particularly for developing economies like ours?
As well for SMEs, the impact from the study conducted by Oxford Economics, which was commissioned by the ICC, countries are likely to lose about 5% of their GDP.
Wow.
You know. Loss of jobs, loss of investment, you know. So it's a wake-up call, you know, from the business community. Yeah.
Wow. Mr. Hamui?
I'm smiling because I think from what I hear from Mr. Doni is that he's proposing that WTO requires a reset agenda.
It needs a reset.
It needs a reset.
Right, yeah. Yes, I want to find out from you. We're not certain what's going to transpire at MC14, and like I asked him, what would that portend for growing economies? He also mentioned SMEs. Should we not be able to reach something concrete at MC14?
I think it's very important, especially for us as a continent, to start to reach out to our policymakers and to urge them to take a stance, a strong stance on the need for reform in particular areas and the need to address particular rules and regulations which are important for the continuity of the businesses in particular area around the world, especially in Africa. So, and that is why you'll see that organized private associations are starting to coordinate and to collaborate more among themselves. For us as Borderless Alliance, for example, we've been collaborating with the ICC in Ghana for a while now through the National Trade Facilitation Committee, through business engagements, through policy engagements in the areas of supply chains and logistics. And it's very important that not only you engage with your policymakers, it is also important for advocacy to engage within yourselves as a private sector, because private sector doesn't necessarily speak in one voice also.
Right.
We always point our finger at the policymakers, but we always forget what the proverb says, that when you point your finger at someone, the other fingers are pointing back at you.
Yeah, sure.
So we ourselves, as private sector representatives, have to sit down and agree that this is what we really want, so that we can mobilize the policymakers to adopt particular stances in some of the priority areas that have been identified. That will add predictability and enhance the business and trade environments in our countries and across our continent. Because if we don't do that ourselves, nobody is going to come to our help.
Right.
It's something that Wamkele has been saying, His Excellency Wamkele Mene, or the AFTA Secretariat, has been saying repeatedly. Africa should not miss its opportunity to integrate its markets and to talk to itself in order to enhance economic development and boost its intra-African trade. If we don't do this ourselves, nobody will come to our help. And so we have to go to Yaoundé at MC14 in a unified position, whether
Present
within
one
Ghana
voice.
or others, so that we will say, this is what we need as a continent, and this is what we need as African countries.
Can I add to what he
Yes,
just
please.
said? I think ICC is actually working on a point he raised,
right?
That we need to build the capacity of our businesses, our
Right.
business people, and together with the AFCFT Tech Secretariat, this was a product that came up from Africa hosting the G20. Business also had its own B20. And then we came up with a project known as Trade Routes Africa, which we intend working closely with the ASA Secretariat to train and build the capacity of businesses involved in cross-border trade within the continent,
right,
so that they will be up to date with the various protocols, all the issues that pop up from the Secretariat
Right.
that are relevant for their business. So we'll be rolling it out very soon as one of the major outcomes from the B20 during the G20 in South Africa last
Right.
year. And for the WTO, it's also part of the reforms. We believe they have to restore their capacity to be able to negotiate and also resolve disputes.
Right.
You know, they've actually lost it, and we think as part of the reform process, confidence will be built, and then it will restore its capacity to be able to negotiate and then resolve disputes. Yeah.
Right. Now, the ICC is calling for the ministers to launch formal, time-bound WTO reform negotiations. And we just want to find out from you, why is this urgent? What specific reforms do you want to see the ministers come up with?
As I mentioned, to restore their capacity to be able to negotiate, and then also to resolve disputes, and then also to work on agreements that's been on the table for a very long time. And then the very
And not
key one,
implemented.
the key one that is related to 21st century challenges has to do with digital trade, which is quite new. Countries are finding their own ways. And that's how come we were able to push for the moratorium on customs on digital products to be extended. It expires in March 2026. The moratorium kicked in 1998, and we believe it has to be extended. You know, that's tariffs on digital products such as softwares, and it's even very difficult to monitor or to enforce.
Yes.
For a place like Ghana, somebody is sitting in his room downloading stuff, and he has to pay customs duty on the software that he's downloading, or electronic books. We believe countries are not up there yet, and then it needs to be extended in Yaoundé. That will be one of the achievements of the conference in Yaoundé. Yeah.
Now, let me find out from Mr. Hamwi, the issue of tariffs. Do you think it's been, I don't want to use the word weaponized, used as a weapon, or, to, as it were, hound some countries to subdue them and get them to do other people's bidding or something?
You see, it really depends on how you look at it and how you understand how tariffs work.
Right.
And sometimes we discuss it among ourselves, me and myself, and some of the private sector practitioners. And we say, we are country X. And we decide it's because our country is so big, we can come to the table and force people to increase their tariffs on particular goods that are directed towards my country because we are punishing them or using it as a weapon. Forgetting the fact that these tariffs will eventually come back to bite our own consumers. Because when you are levying tariffs on country X or country Y, which is exporting into your country, and then all of a sudden your consumers wake up to the fact that the goods that they are consuming is costing 20, 30, 40, 50% more. That is where the policy makers realize that they have been acting on misguided assumptions.
Right.
And that is one of the reasons why we are saying this is the importance of engaging between the business organizations and associations and the policymakers. Because our job as advocates is to bring the facts on the table of the policymakers, to tell them this is what will happen when you do this. And so in order to avoid this, let's do this. And then you are a policymaker, your responsibility is to assess the facts, is to consult among yourselves and then decide what the way forward will be. Instead, it seems to me that one of the signs of this growing dystopic use of power is that you are no longer capable of realizing what are the consequences of your actions. So in a way, you are right. But at the same time, if you bring back this discussion to an African context, if you say that African countries are facing exorbitant tariffs now that they are exporting into country X or country Y or country B.
Yes.
But that is beyond the point, Kennedy, for a reason. Tariffs are not the main hindrance that is preventing intra-African trade from building, for example. It is the non-tariff barriers that are being erected between the various countries that are trading among themselves. And the effect far outweighs the harmful effects of tariffs. Even African, let's take ECOWAS, for example. The tariffs among the West African bloc trading among themselves is negligent. However, the trade is still not coming, formally at least, because informally we can talk about it for hours, as you know. But formally speaking, the number now stands at somewhere between 15 and 18% of trade within Africa or within some of the RECs. But that does not mean that it is because of the tariffs. So if you eliminate the tariff, this number will increase. And it is something that I have personally realized from my advocacy is that at times, you have to understand what the problem is in order to come up with a right solution.
Yes.
And when you look at some of the technical issues, and you think that it is a technical problem that can be solved with a technical solution, without taking into consideration the fact that because many of the issues and the non-tariff barriers are actually non-technical issues that are disguised as technical issues.
Right.
So if you address them and you tackle them as technical issues, you will end up failing because it will manifest itself at another country, at another time, under a different name, and you have to come and solve it again. So you haven't achieved anything. You have to address the root cause of the issue. And this brings us to the fundamentals of what you are advocating for. The advocacy is to make sure that you reduce the barriers for free movement of goods and people. And people are important. We haven't spoken about people yet. But the movement of people brings trade along with it, especially when it has to do with the trade in services. Where people move, trade moves. And so it is very tightly connected with the movement of goods. Now, the movement of goods is mostly affected by the non-tariff barriers, more even than the tariffs. And the World Trade Organization itself is not just the platform to discuss about tariffs. It's about non-tariff barriers. And that was the purpose of the World Trade Organization's Trade Facilitation Agreement.
Right.
So trade facilitation has to do specifically with the technicalities of removing these barriers from the standardization and the harmonization of trade across countries.
Right.
Not just within Africa, but within the world. And this brings us back to the start of the discussion about the implementation. So
Yes.
it's all connects to all.
Right.
But you have to identify what your problem is so that you can solve it successfully.
Right. Okay, so we'll go for a break. I want to come back. I'll find out from you whether the issue of tariffs is a contributory factor from the perspective of ICC to the current challenges surrounding multilateral trade, as it were. You know, and so this is our report here on Metro TV. Tonight we're taking a look at, you know, how to revitalize multilateral trading system and the role of the International Chamber of Commerce. They've called for reforms, and they believe that one particular conference they can use to get these issues addressed is the 14th WTO Ministerial Conference coming off in Yaoundé, Cameroon, you know, pretty shortly. And that's what they call the MC14. And they believe that the ministers should present one voice to the world so that we can have, you know, a multilateral trade and the barriers therein, you know, addressed, and to allow for fluidity and free flow of trade globally. With us in the studios, Mr. Emmanuel Donikwame, Secretary General of the International Chamber of Commerce, Ghana, and indeed Mr. Ziad Hamwi, who is the National President of the Borderless Alliance, Ghana. We're going for a quick break. When we return, we'll continue the discussion. Please stay with us.
Good energy brings you quality choices with Goil Super XP. Available in many Goil stations nationwide. It is fortified with special additives that help your engine perform better and use less fuel. Branch into a Goil station today and energize your ride with Goil Super XP, compatible with most vehicles. Goil Super XP. Goil, good energy. Yeah.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifu, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. You still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Welcome to today's edition of Serene Insurance Business News. We present to you Serena. You're right. You can complete an entire insurance process for the purchase of any motor and other insurance products, from onboarding to issuing a motor insurance sticker and policy certificate, all on WhatsApp in less than 10 minutes. Serena is simple to use and it prioritizes user ease and flexibility. You can either use voice notes or text to effortlessly issue your instant policy, cross-platform renewals, claims, and also process your payments through mobile money, Visa, and MasterCard. To engage Serena, just search for Serena Insurance on all social media handles and scan the Serena barcode or save her number 0500 517 114 and start chatting her on WhatsApp immediately. There you have it. Serena is not just a tool, it's an innovation by Serene Insurance designed to redefine how motor and travel insurance are accessed and managed. Speed, convenience, and reliability.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For For manufacturers, agro-processors, and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
At Phoenix Insurance, we make the unpredictable predictable and the uncertain certain with our range of products, including motor insurance, fire insurance, engineering insurance, marine insurance, accident insurances, and all types of bonds. We have you covered. We also support you with risk management advice to enable you stay focused on your business. Take a policy with Phoenix Insurance today. We help you rise from adversity stronger and more secure. Contact us on 0302 246319 or 0302 246644 or any of our branches, agencies, and brokers spread across the nation. You can as well connect with us on our WhatsApp chatbot. EFIBA is waiting to assist you. Make the future predictable with Phoenix Insurance. Phoenix Insurance, a delightful service experience delivered with wisdom.
All right, welcome back. Remember, we're discussing how to revitalize the multilateral trading system and the role of the International Chamber of Commerce. And like I said, with us in the studios, Mr. Emmanuel Donikwame, Secretary General of the International Chamber of Commerce Ghana, and Mr. Ziad Hamui, National President, Borderless Alliance Ghana. Now, I said when we return, I was going to ask you, from the perspective, so to speak, of the ICC, whether tariff is contributing to the current state of multilateralism in global trade, and whether it's going to feature maybe prominently at MC14.
Whether we like it or not, it will definitely...
Okay, before you come in, I've been asked to announce the phone lines, which is 0245-834980, 0245-834980. It's right here on the screen. You can call in and contribute to the discussion. I've seen your messages as well. Along the line, I would share with my guests, and then if there are any responses, they would proffer to you. Yes, sir.
Whether we like it or not, tariffs will be an issue.
Right.
And but I would like to discuss what he mentioned in his presentation.
Right.
In the case of non-tariff barriers.
Yes.
For us on the continent, our bigger issue has to do with non-tariff barriers because our trade with the rest of the world is more or less free. With the Americas, we have AGOA. With the EU, we have an agreement as the continent itself has an agreement with the EU. But the non-tariff barriers, that is aligned to, let's say, sanitary and phytosanitary issues. And recently, for cocoa producers, we have the EU deforestation regulation, which it's looking at making sure people in producing your cocoa, you don't destroy the forest.
Right.
Or the issues of galamsey and heavy metals getting into products and stuff like that. So those are the bigger issues for those of us on the continent, The non-tariff barriers and how to go around them, it's a big issue.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Hamui, let me find out from you, how can businesses as end users of the trading system practically contribute to shaping more effective and modern trade rules?
So there's a dual role for the private sector. The first of all is to be compliant with the rules and the regulations in the countries which they operate in.
Yes.
And this brings me back to a topic which I discuss all the time, because people think that because we are borderless, it means you have to be lawless. It means you have to go on your car, on your truck, and you can go all the way to Lagos. Nobody should stop you. ETLS didn't say that. WTO didn't say that. Ghana laws didn't say that. Nobody said that. But what everyone is saying is that as long as you are compliant with the set of rules and regulations that guide the movement of your driver, of your truck, and your goods, and you are compliant, then you should expect your trade to be facilitated and your movement to be unhindered.
Right.
And this brings us to the fact that as long as we have committed to this as a block of countries, and we have signed on it. And now we are having issues in the enforcement of the implementations of these rules and regulations, whether, for example, the axle weight regulations across the region, which we have tried several times to launch, and we still have an issues in launching. I hope that the Ghana Highway Authority comes out with a plan, because we heard that ECOWAS recently sent them an update about the, for all the ECOWAS countries, about the launching of the axle weight regulation, for example. And it seems that some countries still did not receive their official notifications through the official channels, which is an issue. So we are going to start with the enforcement of a regional rule and regulation. They haven't even received it. Meanwhile, it has been sent. But somehow it has not been received. So you see some of the issues and the challenges with the implementation, right? Or, for example, with the rollout of an electronic certificate of origin, which is currently being pioneered by ECOWAS in collaboration with FSRP, and will soon remove some of the hurdles of having a certificate around. So some of these issues, once you are compliant, and you know that you are compliant, you should expect trade facilitation. So you should come to expect some assistance from, for example, Borderless Alliance, who is pioneering an ENTB platform in collaboration with Ghana Shippers Authority along its corridors. If you are stopped for whatever reason, and the reason is just whatever, then there's a hotline you can apply. You can receive some support from the focal point, and also from the authorities involved and the agencies involved, right? So there are some maneuvers. But now when you come and you are not in compliance, your driver license expires, you don't even have your documentation, you yourself, you've hitched a ride for someone you don't know, he's going with you, you are going to Lagos, he will go with you, and you say he's my mate, you don't have any documentation, and you don't expect to be stopped. So these issues with the lack of compliance, they create the venues and the opportunities for the illicit fees and the exchanges of fees to take place along the checkpoints on your way going, and then also at the borders. So this is one aspect of the matter. The other one is that we don't seem to be forthcoming as private sector operators about what really our priorities are. If we are a local private sector company, whether trade or SME or whether transport or whether supply chain, wherever you are located, and you feel threatened by the incoming or the inflow of foreign powers, so to say, into your markets and foreign competition, and you don't discuss it openly as such, then it allows for distortions and for misinterpretations, and for a situation where people don't really know why are we fighting for this, right? Let me take you, for example, to a case that happens every now and then in Ghana.
Right.
When the task force will come and will shut down some shops that are owned by certain nationalities of ECOWAS, and then the task force will go and they'll find out that actually this shop, which is owned by a non-Ghanaian, is manned by a Ghanaian. So according to their laws, they are moving with along with the laws, but they are fronting for someone else, right? So this persistent incompliance with the various rules and regulations in the countries that we work with, or with the laws of the roads, this is what creates the venues to complicate matters further, even for the compliant traders and the economic operators. So our call as Borderless Alliance is always to make sure that you are in full knowledge of what the laws and the rules are before you set off on your journey. Carry your full sets of documents for your cargo, for your driver, for your car. And if you have any compliance issues, or if you have any facilitation issues by any border agency, then you can come legitimately and say, I have everything I need. I am supposed to take only 1 hour to cross this border from Togo to Benin, or from Ghana to Togo, or from wherever, but I'm still having issues. And this reminds me of something very interesting that happened earlier last week, if you remember. One of the former members of Parliament of Ghana just recently came from a very extraordinary journey across Africa. And he traveled apparently 31 countries over Ras Mubarak. He went on a very interesting journey. I'm so interested in seeing that report that he's... And so one of the stories that he mentions is getting stuck at a particular border between, at Benin. And then the embassy of Ghana in that country had to actually intervene to tell them that the guy is an ECOWAS citizen and that he's coming to an ECOWAS country. So if you have to enforce this kind of influence.
Yes.
Just for an ordinary citizen to move across your borders, then you know that we have a long way to go, before we get to the borderless Africa that we aspire to. So we really have a long way to go, but we also have a lot of sensitization, capacity building, and collaboration and partnership to do within the private sector and with the policymakers.
Awesome. Well, let's do some messages. Ajete in Mataheko says, please, how does this WTO reform talk benefit small traders in Ghana who are struggling with import costs?
Import cost?
Yes.
That's an internal issue. Yeah. Fees and charges in Ghana.
Yeah, it says import costs.
Yeah, that's an advocacy that's already been undertaken by the business associations at the National Trade Facilitation Committee.
Right.
Because the TFA was signed by all the member countries that every country will have an NTFC, a National Trade Facilitation Committee, that will look at the internal issues. And the main goal of the trade facility agreement is to reduce the cost and then the time in doing business. The cost as per fees and charges, and then the time in clearing your goods from the port. Because once you keep your goods at the port, you pay demurrage charges. So more investment to allow for a quicker turnaround time.
Right.
You know. So the committee should be meeting and be looking at the challenges that are making it difficult for a simple SME in Mataheko to be paying more.
Right.
So WTO has done its part. The local authorities are being monitored by WTO to be sure, to ensure once they get to Yaoundé, they'll be clicking, they'll be ticking the boxes to see whether your fees are coming down or your time in doing business is also coming down. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so Mocha in Spintex says, can ICC really influence powerful countries that keep imposing trade restrictions?
We are business. Businesses around the world are members of ICC. Our colleagues in the US are also, it's more to do with lobbying and advocacy. The political will, if it's there, we'll be able to influence the politics because businesses do create jobs. And in politics, if you want to win votes, it's all about creating jobs. Tariffs increases cost.
Yes.
You know, if you impose tariffs on anything, your citizens will have to pay more.
Right.
You know, and once they are paying more, they won't be happy. The strange thing is that at first, it's those of us in Africa were the ones that were seen to be imposing tariffs, because the developed world was not generating revenue from tariffs. They were getting their revenue from income tax.
Right.
So they attract investments, the companies set up, and then they pay their taxes after their profits. And that was enough to run a country. But for us, because we didn't have the necessary infrastructure, our budgets depend on what happens at the port. So countries in Africa we depend on tariffs.
Right.
But now it looks like our so-called developed countries are now fighting with tariffs here.
Right.
Can I come in
yes,
a
please.
bit into this discussion? Because I have the impression that most of the questions coming are about the local interpretation and implementation of the international agreement. And this feeds also into the dialogue about the fact that we go and we sign up to commit to lowering our fees and charges and to the rest of the agreement, and then we come back. And then when it is time to domesticate and to ratify this agreement, to make for example, our fees and charges streamlined with what we have agreed at the WTO. For example, the charging of commensurate costs for the fees and charges, not on ad valorem rates.
Yes.
And that is something that we do always in Ghana, something percent. Meanwhile, it's just a stamp.
Right.
Why would the stamp, for example, cost less? Because it's a pen than when it is a phone.
Yeah.
It's the same transaction. It's the same guy. He just stamps the whole thing. It should carry a fixed fee. And we have committed to this into some of the category that we have scheduled into our rules and into our commitment for the WTO as a country. And other countries have also committed. And then the World Trade Organization, through certain mechanisms, will monitor the implementation of countries' commitments to the rules and the regulations that were agreed. And this is where you find out that there is a significant bulk. I don't want to put blames on particular countries. Many countries have issues with the implementation of some of these agreements, especially when they are huge like this, because of some of the earlier elements we were discussing about the capacity. But sometimes they drag their feet for various reasons, not necessarily capacity-wise. And this brings me to the reason why I'm saying the local interpretation. Because are we really pushing towards more consumption by importing more, or are we looking at economic transformation by adding value and growing our economy significantly? Remember that in the 60s, Singapore and Ghana were on par. Today, is Singapore the same on par? And Singapore doesn't have any resource. No oil, no gold, no cocoa, no lithium, no. I can keep on mentioning up to tomorrow. They don't have any of that. But still, they have managed to develop themselves by moving away from export of raw material and coming into value addition and transformation economies. That's how the approach for us as a nation should be. And that's how for most of the African nations should be.
Awesome. All right, Pakwesi Hughes Brew says, what happens to countries like Ghana if MC14 fails? Are we the biggest losers?
I wouldn't say yes or no. We part of a regional bloc, and we have the AFCA Secretariat in here. And once we are championing that one, I think all our efforts should be geared towards Africa's integration. The challenge we are facing is that we don't have the requisite investment or infrastructure that will make trade flow easily within the continent. The connectivity, the ports, the airlines, that will make things affordable. I discussed this issue of tariffs, you know, and let's take a very good example. The companies manufacturing jeans for AGOA in South Africa, you know, and we all fly to the US to buy these jeans and then fly in here. And it's quite cheaper in the US because there are no tariffs under AGOA. But if, is it Lesotho? It's Lesotho. The country exporting jeans to the US.
Yes.
Yeah, Lesotho.
The worst of the tariff for some
you
reason.
know, so we're all surprised that most of the jeans we go to the US to buy,
It's from South Africa.
actually coming from Africa.
Lesotho,
But if you are to bring the jeans to Ghana, even under a tariff-free regime under AFCFTA, the other cost is the cost of transportation. Getting the jeans from Lesotho to Ghana, you know, and that brings to mind the kind of investment and the kind of infrastructure. That's how come we want businesses to come together and start thinking of investing in subsea shipping, some infrastructure that can make these things feasible. You know,
absolutely.
Recently, the airlines reduced some of their taxes. You know,
across West Africa.
Yeah, to allow for cargo flights to carry these goods easily. So that once we are blocked from the rest of the world, at least on the continent, we will be able to trade. And then, because we have a lot we send outside.
I think most of the airlines are also now taking just one, you know, one luggage, 125, or is it 23 kg, and then it used to be two. Now most of them are taking only one.
But that is not one of the main reasons why people do not fly. It's not because I'm going to have an extra bag or extra weight on my bag and I'm not flying. It's because the cost of the fees and the charges. We were talking about the port fees and charges. The fees and charges that come onto an airline ticket are also sometimes very, very surprising. Some of the airport fee, tariffs per passenger, for example, across Africa, not just necessarily across ECOWAS. If you take off some of these out of the rest of the element of the ticket, you find out that you actually have competitive rates. And it's not actually the airline that is benefiting from the overburdensome tickets. It's the airports authorities themselves in the various countries. Some charge as much as $250 per ticket. Sometimes $250 per airport. So it becomes very, excuse me to say, it sometimes becomes ridiculous.
Absolutely.
Right? And then you see most of the African airports building these fancy terminals, and you wonder where the money is coming from.
And they need to
It's internally generated funds from that money, which gets splurged on getting bigger terminals. So it's like you are taxing everybody so that you will build your prestige for some reason. I mean, is it the most sustainable aspect of it? And I think in conclusion, it's about how we strategize and collaborate to place Africa in the center of the development and to work on the connectivity of these African countries to identify the market opportunities across, to trade among ourselves more, and then to remove these barriers from trading among themselves. And that is why one common collaboration within the ICC is with the upcoming second Africa Sustainable Supply Chain Summit, where we will be focusing on actually the sustainability of transportation across Africa, on the supply chains, on ensuring better, more reliable and cheaper service alternatives to what is currently existing with Africa on the fringe. So we want to bring Africa back in the center of our strategic thinking of trading across among ourselves.
Right.
Yeah. And
okay.
To add to what he just said,
yes.
This year we also have a very unique partner on the issue of digital trade. ICC is now working with TikTok for us to see how we can roll out our ICC TikTok project.
Right.
Nigeria will have their launch during the second quarter.
Okay.
And as part of the second ICC Sustainable Supply Chain Summit, we will have a Ghana launch hopefully in October. We're still working on the supply chain summit. Yeah.
Right. Awesome. All right. Ohima in Tema, Ohima Paulina, she's one of our regular texters. She says, good evening, Iron Port. Very insightful discussion. I'm really enjoying it. Thanks for the topic, Ken. Greetings to Ziyad. Well, thank you so much, Ohima, for sending in your message as usual. We're deeply grateful to you. The one says, good evening. This is Isaac Esilfi from Tema. I would like to know if there has been a ban on certain exports commodities from Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, that in any way affected Ghana's export trade balance. If yes, are there any diplomatic engagements from ICC after Ghana Shippers Authority and other government or trades or state-owned enterprises to revitalize this multilateral trading system? Thank you, he says.
Do you know of any issue?
Is she referring to some of the export bans?
It's actually a he. It's actually a he, Isaac Esilfi.
Do you know of any ban?
I mean, I've heard that there is a ban on shea nuts, on the raw shea nuts coming from Burkina Faso and some of the landlocked countries. But the topic is a little bit sensitive because we are still in a transition period where the Sahelian countries are forming their own sub-regional body. And they are moving away from ECOWAS. Meanwhile, there aren't the official frameworks to guide the movement of goods across, even though at the moment the AES countries continue to use the old, let's call it the old ECOWAS free movement protocols. But eventually that would change.
Right.
But because it's, from what I hear, it's more like a sovereign decision where a country wakes up one day and decides that upon consideration of the facts on the ground, they will decide to impose a particular export ban in particular areas. And we come back to one finger pointing at someone and three fingers pointing back. Don't we have our own export bans? Some of them are still in place on maize and on raw, rubber and so many other things. Some people are happy, some people are not happy. Some people are louder, some people are more quiet about it. So these would be within the jurisdiction of national countries. So our role as an interface would be to engage through the appropriate platform. In this case, for example, well, in Ghana, we have our own National Trade Facilitation Committee. I'm not very sure whether Burkina Faso has its own National Trade Facilitation Committee or whether they have something similar, but a Military Council of Trade Facilitation or something like that. I'm not really sure. But I mean, jokes apart, I think these will have to go through the national...
But the unique thing is that Burkina has a very vibrant chamber of commerce.
They do, yes.
Yeah.
And
so issues of that nature,
we
will engage them and then, between business.
Absolutely. So in 15 seconds, MC14, what are your expectations? We have barely 30 seconds to wrap up.
I think it's a very unique opportunity. And from the information preparatory meetings we've had, it's likely to be successful if our ministers of trades around the world will listen to business.
Yes, your final word, please.
my final word is just to launch a quick call to action to most of the regions and ministers of trade to prepare themselves to collaborate among themselves,
yes,
to come with a unique position so that it can feed into the African position of MC14.
Absolutely.
Let us do that at a regional level, and let us do that at a continental level.
Awesome. Mr. Ziad Hamu is the National President, Borderless Alliance, Ghana, and indeed Mr. Emmanuel Donikwame, Secretary General, ICC, Ghana. We've been discussing how to revitalize a multilateral trading system and the role of the International Chamber of Commerce. And remember, we have the MC14 coming up in Yaoundé, Cameroon, and they expect most of the issues that they've raised to be addressed there so that we can have fluidity and, free flow of trade globally. Gentlemen, thank you so much for making a date on our import this week. We know that as and when the need arises and we call, you will always oblige us. We are deeply grateful to you, sirs. And we'd also like to say a big thanks to our sponsors, Ghana Revenue Authority, GWEL PLC, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, Meridian Port Services, MPS, and indeed Phoenix Insurance. Remember, the show is proudly powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, GPHA. God willing, next week we shall bounce back with another wonderful edition of your favorite Iron Port program. My name is Kennedy Mona. We entreat you to keep watching the rest of our programs here on Reto TV and make a date on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. and watch the abridged version of Iron Port on Ghana Television, GTV. We wish you a blessed and super week ahead, and we thank you so much once again for choosing us. God bless, no less. We are out.